Hey, it's DDO players, and we are here with Mr. Mike Tunez, who is the lead designer of Firelock's new game, Blood and Plunder.
How's it going?
Thank you so much for taking some time today to speak with us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We tried to grab you at Gen Con, but we will talk about Gen Con in a little bit, but you guys were pretty much slammed, so glad we could find some time today. Our viewers to our website and listeners to the podcast know that we have been talking about Blood and Plunder since even before the Kickstarter.
Awesome.
And then we covered the Kickstarter all throughout the process. So just for maybe some people that might not know, can you give me what I always like to say is the elevator pitch for exactly what the heck this Blood and Plunder game is?
All right, so the elevator pitch would be that Blood and Plunder is a 28mm historical miniatures game set in the golden age of piracy with some innovative mechanics that transitions seamlessly between land and sea combat.
And you did happen to mention that this is the golden age, so that would be the 17th century, correct?
Yep. Yeah, 17th golden age is considered 17th, early 18th. More people think generally the early 18th, but 17th century, late, definitely still qualifies.
And it's on the Spanish Main, too, as well, right?
Correct, yeah.
So why did you guys choose to go with that setting versus anything else that you could do? Because, you had a wide range to pick from for the whole piracy thing. Why the 17th century, 18th century, Golden Age?
Okay, so piracy in the New World pretty much goes from, almost immediately upon European arrival, probably even before, really. And all the way up to, the end of the Golden Age is roughly, 1630, maybe something like that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 1730. Now, the more popular portion of this is the late 18th century, which is like, 1700 to about 1730, which is where you got characters like Blackbeard and Jack Rackham and Anne Bonny and Mary Read and those more popular sorts.
Right.
However, those pirates didn't really do a lot of combat. It's they still did. There was obviously some ship engagements and stuff like that.
Right.
But they didn't really ever raid on land or anything like that. Not nearly to the extent that the buccaneers of the late 17th century did. And those buccaneers are really when somebody talks about the Pirates of the Caribbean, in terms of, the real Pirates of the Caribbean.
And not the movie,
That's
right?
correct, yes. That's what they're referring to. And they may not always realize it, but that's really what they're referring to. They're referring to the late 17th century buccaneers that fought primarily for England and France.
Okay, so you mentioned, like Anne Bonny and Blackbeard and stuff like that. So are we going to see any of those, quote-unquote famous faces from history in the game?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We definitely plan on advancing the timeline up. And for our 18th century set, we want to have some options, do some more advanced rules for ship combat, since that's going to be more of the focus there. For the, mainly for the players who just kind of want a little bit more of a, more of a realistic, closer to a simulation kind of game. So we'll have throw in some options for that later, at that point of time.
And I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what do you think exactly sets this apart from the other pirate games that are out there?
Yeah, everybody always asks me that one. So, well, really, my answer usually is that I don't really believe there's many other actual pirate games out there, historical ones anyway. So, I mean, I guess that is the fact that it's a historical game. And there are some historical pirate rule sets, but not so much like we've done it, where it's a full game system with a full line of miniatures and accessories and everything else that goes along with it. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop for all that. We also have done the rules different. Most games will either ships kind of feel like an afterthought, where they're just an accessory to the game, or the land combat will feel like an afterthought, right? If it even has land combat at all, or ship combat at all. Where we've really, really focused on making sure those things were really, both things felt like core of the system, where it wasn't like this is kind of an accessory to that. So they're both, you could play a sea game and it plays tactically very different, but mechanically identical to playing a game completely on land. And if you go amphibious, it works the same way. So that and we have a pretty unique activation system that's got a lot of tactics to it, and there's a lot of thinking and a lot of choices involved. So it's a pretty light rule set, but very tactically deep.
I was just about to ask you about how the rule set is and some of the mechanics, because I know you guys do have some interesting mechanics, like for your ship-to-ship combat. I watched a video that you guys produced.
Cool.
So you want to speak a little bit to that of how you're going to do like your mechanics, and then talk about the ship-to-ship combat, because I know that's what a lot of people are looking forward to, me included.
Yes, everybody always goes right towards the ship combat. But once they get a grasp of the game, some people like to stay with the ship combat. Other people like to move towards land just because they're better at it. You know, some people are better admirals than generals, and vice versa. So, but to answer your question, to get into some of the mechanics. Units are activated by cards, so that's kind of where the core of the system is, and it's a squad-based game, right? So similar to something like Warhammer 40K or something like that, where you have a little squad of models that operate together, and those are units.
Right.
So you draw one card from your deck, and this is a regular 52 card style deck. We made a custom one that's got some game information on it just to make it simpler, but any regular set of playing cards works. And so you draw one card for every unit that you currently have on the table, and the card's going to have the suit of the card that you choose is going to determine which unit activates first, and also how many actions they get. So a card that's likely to make you go first will give you less actions generally than a card that's going to probably have you go last. So sometimes you want to go last and get those extra actions. Sometimes you want to really go first and just, squeeze out a few extra actions. There's also a fatigue system that you can use to push your units so you can get a little bit of extra actions even if you had less and went first. But you could also gain extra fatigue from being attacked in different types of combat. And if you build up too much fatigue, you lose actions, and sometimes you can't do anything at all. So it's got to balance those things. The game works off D10s. It's a basic skill. So each unit has different skills for different things, and you add a few modifiers. We don't use a lot of modifiers, but you add a few modifiers to get a target number, and you roll for hits, and you roll for saves against those hits. And that pretty much sums it up pretty cleanly there for the core. Now, you asked about ship combat, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, cool. So now when you get to ships, units that are on ships occupy sections, and ships pretty much function identical to buildings or forts or anything like that in the game. The difference is, of course, they can move. So when you activate a unit that's on a ship, that ship is going to move 3 times a turn. When a unit on board, it activates. And each time you move, you have a certain amount you can turn based on the type of ship, a certain speed that you can set on your sail settings, and also a windward factor. So if you're sailing upwind, you're going to lose a little speed. Ships can't sail directly into the wind. If you're closer than 45 degrees to the wind, you have to either try to use your crew to perform attack or box hull maneuver to cross the eye of the wind, or you get stuck and you end up drifting backwards, which is a very painfully slow process.
Wow, you guys really thought of everything, didn't you?
Well, we certainly tried to.
I think you succeeded, it sounds like.
Yeah, so and then combat on the ships is the units can, of course, exchange musket fire and do boarding actions, and cannons are there and all that, and you roll dice, and then the more you beat up a ship, ships don't just run out of hull points and sink like a lot of other systems. As a ship takes damage, it's more and more likely to take more crits, and the crits are what essentially will eventually destroy your ship, or cause you to strike, or immobilize you, or do some other horrible thing like that.
So will it be possible to do like a ship-to-land combat?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So basically, ships in our game are basically vehicles, right? So if you think about any other, like maybe a World War II game like Bolt Action that's got tanks in it, right? Ships are our tanks, essentially. You just need water to move around on. So if you have a ship included in your force, let's say you just show up to a store to play against, it's a game night or something like that, and I've built a list and I have a ship in my list and you don't, then the rules have a provision for that, where you basically just add a little strip of water off to the side, and your ship will support your guys on shore with cannons and muskets and whatever else you want to stick in there. So it's very flexible between land and sea, back and forth.
And I know we kind of touched on that a little bit. You guys showed the game off at Gen Con this year, and this was your first Gen Con, so how did you find that experience, and what was the reaction from everybody that came to the booth?
Yeah, Gen Con was overwhelming. I'm still tired from it. So
I know you would be both.
Yeah, wow, it was great. I mean, we couldn't keep our booth, we couldn't keep our demo tables open, so which was good. We set up 3 demo tables, which we figured, okay, that should give us plenty of opportunity to get everybody in playing. And we tried to keep our demos pretty short. Sea games were try to keep them around half an hour, and the land one about 20 minutes. And it seemed to stay pretty close to that, but still we couldn't, there was people just waiting around trying to get games in. And yeah, it was great. I mean, everybody had a lot of really positive things to say. People seemed to enjoy the system. We didn't get any real negative comments. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty exciting. We had a much better response than we anticipated.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys did a great job with your booth too. Your booth looked amazing. The game looked amazing. Just from
Thanks.
what I seen, I tried to get in to demo it, but it was just like I said at the top of the interview here that your booth was just crazy. So, which was a good problem for you to have.
Yeah, definitely.
And the game itself, you guys did on Kickstarter. Why
Right.
did you choose Kickstarter to do it, and how'd you find the whole Kickstarter process?
So we chose Kickstarter because we felt it would give us a lot of visibility, and it would also give us that large influx of cash so that we can kind of get the process going as fast as we could, and also to gauge interest. We wanted to, I mean, when we had the idea of doing the historical pirate game, we weren't really sure exactly how many people would respond positively to that, right?
Right. Yeah.
So we were very pleasantly surprised, thankfully, and but those were pretty much the three main reasons for the Kickstarter. Primarily the last two, the gauging the interest more than anything, and also that large influx of money that allows us to create the molds and everything right away without having to wait and do one at a time. That way we could just come out of the gate with as many models and ships and everything as we possibly could have. The experience was interesting. So Kickstarters can be very, very unforgiving, especially once you launch it and put it live. The amount of stuff, there's a lot of stuff they don't let you change at that point. If you post
Gotcha.
something and you make a mistake, like we posted an incorrect flag one time and a few little errors like that here and there. Thankfully, nothing super grievous, but yeah, it was. There's definitely lots of scary things that you're terrified to hit send and you double, triple check it and get that tunnel vision and somehow still miss something. So, but all in all, though, it was a pretty good experience. We got tons of feedback. People seemed pretty happy with what we were offering for the most part, and it was interesting, that's for sure. We're probably gonna do another one for, if you saw at our Gen Con booth, we had a little dice game there called Scurvy Dice.
Yeah,
Which
I was gonna ask you about that actually.
Yeah, the guy who made our terrain boards actually came up with that game and he showed it to us. I'm not a big fan of dice games and stuff like that, but when I played it, I actually really enjoyed myself. I was like, this is unusual, so this has to be a really good dice game, because I've never played a dice game that I've enjoyed. So
Right.
So we're probably gonna put that on Kickstarter next year. Got a couple other things like that are coming down the pike, but.
And I know the production, you guys are doing most of it in-house. Can you talk about that a little bit and how that process is working and how it's going? Which I think I will give you kudos for attempting to do all of that in-house. That is amazing that you're doing that.
Well, thanks. Yeah, we felt that it would definitely be better starting out to control the production process, at least the big major parts, such as basically the miniatures. What we make here is the miniatures. We make the ships and we make the minis, the figures, the crew and the soldiers and all that ourselves here. We do have the dice and the books and all that made elsewhere, but the minis all made here. So the process is going quite well. There's definitely been some excuse me, some learning curves here and there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. So minor delays and stuff that we were able to kind of overtake and take advantage of quickly. We've had a lot of really good help, thankfully, from experienced guys, and we've been, we're moving at a pretty good pace. We're definitely on track for right now. Knock on wood. Hopefully, looks like we could even maybe start delivering in November if things go well. But
awesome.
No promises. But
yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely a possibility at this point.
So when you will get the game, how many miniatures is it going to come with?
So if you buy one of the starter boxes, a starter box is basically a little faction box, and it's got 25 minis in it. That's enough to play at least 100 points. Some boxes will have more if it's a more elite force, but we wanted to have the same number of models in every box. So it's 25 models with a few different unit types, and that's enough for one player. So 2 boxes will be enough for 2 players, and then you could buy ships and the rule books and other things like that all separately, so you can kind of customize what you want to get started with. So that's about it. We're going to definitely do blisters of 4 minis a piece once we hit production. Once we hit retail next year.
That was going to be my next question. Are you planning on going into retail with this, or are you guys just going to sell it on your site itself? But you are looking at a retail launch.
Yeah, definitely going to do retail. That's been our plan from the beginning, and we definitely don't want to be one of those Kickstarters that just comes out and puts a few games out and then disappears into the ether. We plan on supporting this game. We have big plans to continue going forward. We're looking to hit retail at the beginning of next year, very early next year. We've already been talking to distributors and stores and things like that, so we're all set for that. We just got to get all the stuff to the Kickstarter backers first, and then from there we're going immediately to to pre-orders and to retailers.
Awesome. And I know it's probably a little early to ask this question, but what the heck?
Mm-hmm.
Let's ask it anyway. So after you get your Kickstarter fulfillments out and say you get into retail and that's all churning along and everything's running fine, do you guys have plans for like expansions maybe or add-ons? You want to talk to that? Maybe some of your early plans you can talk of or anything you can not talk about right now?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of plans. we like talking about our plans so people know that we have a long-term vested interest.
Well, that's all. That is amazing that you do. That's
yeah.
that I think instills confidence in I think any publisher when they're not talking. Okay, we started this Kickstarter. We're going to put this Kickstarter out, and then we'll worry about. But I mean, if you guys already have future plans, that is awesome.
Yeah. Not only do we have future plans, we've already begun initiating them.
Wow.
We've got right now a set of cavalry that are due for sure for the English and the Spanish for each of their militias. We've got a unit of upgrade packs for sailor units so that you can add a model with a blunderbuss or a bunch of granados to your unit of sailors. And we've started working on some models for our next nationality, which is the Native Caribbeans. And that's going to include some factions like Kalinago, and which during the period referred to as Caribs and Taino and Darien and all those groups. And we definitely want to expand further in the timeline. We want to get to at least all the way down to the American Revolution, maybe go back down a little bit to the times of Sir Francis Drake and the Sea Dogs and all that. So,
oh wow, awesome.
we've got a lot of plans, and next year we'll probably start to show some stuff for the various navies and any standing army troops that made it in their way into the Caribbean, and we're going to start expanding into North America as well. Some of the conflicts between Spanish Florida and South Carolina, and you can expect to see a lot of stuff from that. So we're gonna. And there's much more than that, but that's what's on the immediate radar. So
that sounds amazing. That is awesome. And you did mention that you're going to have some natives in here. How are you going to handle that? Because I know that could probably be maybe a sensitive issue for some people.
Right, and a lot of times in some historical games, it kind of feels like the natives are an afterthought. We definitely don't want to take that route. So we're going to give them the full treatment of a full nationality, even though not really a nationality, but we're kind of just, using, that's just a game term we're using.
Right.
But yeah, it covers a region basically. And, a culture is really, really a better way to put it. But, we're a game, we're not a, so right. Calling it a culture sounds weird. Nationality sounds better. Anyway, so, but yeah, we've done a lot of research, and we have our historian who we consult with, Benderson Little, who's done, he's walked this line before, writing about it in historical context, and it is a historical game, so we want to represent the reality.
Is he the one that's helping with Black Sails?
Yes, that's the same
I thought
guy.
So. That name sounded familiar. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then you have the right guy then.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, he's awesome. He's been incredibly helpful. And he's got some really, really cool books. If you want to know from a wargamer's perspective, if you want to learn about this period and about this style of combat, his books, especially one called The Sea Rover's Practice, excellent. Can't recommend it enough. But yeah, we're going to work with him, and we're going to make sure we get all the names right, and we respect all the cultures and treat them exactly, and give them the credit they deserve. And where they were really good, we're going to make them really good, and when they weren't so great, we're not going to make them that great. So it's going to be an accurate reflection, we hope. And I think people will be satisfied with.
Well, that is good to hear because, yeah, like you said, a lot of the times it is afterthought in a lot of games. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are actually putting some thought into it and trying to be sensitive when you can, but being true to history because you're trying to stick to the whole historical aspect. So that's great.
Exactly.
So you said maybe November, but probably December for Kickstarters?
Yeah, we're on track for December right now. So we should definitely be seeing stuff starting to ship end of this year.
Awesome.
So
and then I have one final question that I could not resist asking.
Go for it.
I love Sid Meier's Pirates.
Oh yeah.
So my question is, can I date or marry a governor's daughter in Blood and Plunder?
You can have whatever narrative you like. But, you never know. Maybe we didn't put any kind of campaign in the main rulebook, because we didn't want the campaign to be an afterthought. We wanted to do a whole book dedicated to like all kinds of campaigns. And Sid Meier's Pirates game and the original '80s version was like what got me in this whole pirate thing craze to begin with. So it hooked me from a young age and never let me go. So that's definitely going to be an influence. So you can count on some stuff from that making its way into any kind of campaign system we implement in the future.
All right, that is great to hear. Well, that is all the questions I had. Is there anything else you want to say about Blood and Plunder? Or do you think we covered everything? Or
yeah, I think you pretty much covered everything. I definitely want to say thanks to all your listeners for checking out and listening to the interview, and to all of our backers. We're still super appreciative, and people who not even just backers, but everybody else who wants to support us in every other way. People who are excited. We just love everybody's enthusiasm, and it's super encouraging to us. So
well, it's easy to be enthused about the game because it's just an awesome game from what I've seen.
Well,
I was excited just from the early thing I got about it before the Kickstarter started, and I just keep getting more excited, and we're going to keep reporting on it as it goes, and we're going to watch to see what you guys do, because I think there's going to be some great things coming from you guys. So,
well, thank you very much. We definitely plan on doing great things. So, I've definitely got we'll give you any information you need. Just feel free to ask.
All right.
We love talking about it. So,
well, I will hold you to that then. So we will maybe chat again after you have everything launched into retail, and we'll see how everything went.
Yep. Sounds like a plan.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Thank you.